This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
.07 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast, and you're on Ask My Rabbi.
And this is Rabbi Shafir Lobb of Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast. And I hope everyone is enjoying the instant advent of summer. It really wasn't instant, but it sure feels it always. It
Sure
gets
does.
warm quickly. Yep.
Yep. Spring was fleeting.
Spring is never long.
What, about 2 days?
Yeah, something like that.
Brother.
Very
Yeah.
short.
Yeah, it was. It was. And,
So.
and of course, we're now in the depths of summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other way to describe it.
Summer comes and it comes quickly and it comes with intention.
Yeah, yeah. So how was your you see, you had graduation at Kaiser.
Kaiser
right?
had graduation. It was awesome. So I have to tell you, they have a rule at graduation called no rules.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Back up. What?
The only thing that families not allowed to do is get between the graduate and the graduate photos. So there's an area when you cross the stage as you go down. There's an area where the photographer is set up with the backdrop and all that. You can't be between the camera and the graduate for that,
I get that.
right? Because they want that graduate photo.
Sure.
But families, toward the beginning, there was one brave gentleman who came up to be with his sweetheart and walked with her across the stage to get her her diploma. And after that, there were just tons of family that came up. There was one person who came up and the whole family came up, including two relatively new newborns. I mean, they were little tiny things.
That's so cool.
It was just, and that's as the evening progressed, more and more families came up with their graduates, and there's a significant number of graduates, and the videos that they made, they did a surround thing around where they spin around that technique where they spin around the player.
Now, was this down in Palm Beach on the main campus?
No, this was actually done at a Methodist church on Jenkins.
Oh.
Right near the end of Jenkins up there.
Huh.
A big Methodist church that has a mega facility, kind of.
Huh.
Big hall. And of course the graduates take up the big chunk of the center.
Oh, yeah.
Family around it. Faculty takes up like two little rows over on the side. There wasn't. But yeah, so it was kind of cool.
See, I thought you would be in the Countess's arena down on the main campus.
No. Now, there is, so Kaiser does both. I guess when you graduate, you have the option of going to the main campus and being part of the big graduation, or you can do the satellite graduations.
Gotcha.
And so there's a division between those who graduate as to which they do. But yeah, it was really impressive. The grads were very happy, as they should be. It's a ton of work. Right. And we had somebody get her doctorate in psychology.
Whoa.
So that was
nice.
kind of cool. Yeah.
Nice.
So we have doctorate students, masters, and of course bachelors and associates.
So doctoral program at Kaiser is 6 years?
It depends on the program and the student.
Yeah.
Because I did mine in 2 to 3 years, but I did that by taking a lot of courses, which I couldn't do right this minute.
Yeah, but I mean, the 6 years would be undergrad and then...
Oh, no, I think it's more than that. Typically, bachelor's considered 4 years, but of course Kaiser runs 3 semesters a year.
Right.
So your 8 terms that would be a normal year with summers off, if you don't take the summers off, then you can finish it in 2.5 years or 2 2/3 years, I guess.
Nice. Okay.
Right. So you pick up an extra year in the summers,
Oh,
right, because of the way that Kaiser does it.
I think that's what Carol did in Indiana because she
Yeah.
was a 3-year grad.
Well, and it always was the case. You could go to summer classes and intensives and accelerate things that way. I've done that. I didn't do that for my original bachelor's, but I did do it for every master's or doctorate that I've taken. I've gone steady. I've not taken a lot of breaks and just moved through it. And that's what I'm doing now. So when I registered for fall term at Liberty,
Oh, God.
which I just did, the advising office said to me, you do know that you need to fill out graduation forms when you start.
Whoa,
This
listen
term.
to this.
So yeah, we're there. We're there. It's kind of scary.
So now, okay. So are you going to walk up there?
I don't know.
I think that would be cool.
I don't know.
Well,
Well, so I actually asked that question of those who know regalia, because doctorates, people who have achieved their doctorate, have a different robe
I'll bet they do.
from the
Yeah.
master's folks, and I own my regalia because when I graduated, I knew I'd be wearing it other times, and it's just nice to wear your own. And so I asked a bunch of people, do I wear this to get my master's? And of course, the answer really is yes, because the gown you wear to an academic event is your level. And
You already got that.
I already
in
have a
PhD.
doctorate. Yeah. So I will wear the doctoral tam and gown.
Nice. Yeah, you've got to
and
go.
pick up my master's. The eyes should be interesting.
No. You got to go and you got to get video. Yeah. I think this is great.
Well, people can help sponsor the trip. It's up to Virginia. So
No, we can. Hey, Delta Airlines, if you're listening.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll put you in some Mets games and sponsor the Rabbi's trip.
there
up
you go. That'd be wonderful.
And maybe even your husband. Oh.
Yeah, that would be cool. And the dog's visit to the boarding kennel.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, this sounds great though.
Yeah. So that's a possibility. Of course, that graduation I think is in May, so there's some time. Got about a year until that happens. But
That's cool though.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it quite a bit.
Long grind.
It has been, and I look back and I'm like, when did I take that course? So, and I remember sitting in here and you looking at me like, you're doing what?
Yeah. Well, I'll probably be sitting in here when you're saying that you're going to try and get something else after Liberty.
Oh, probably will, just because. And, so here's a piece, folks, right? That's a way to not have to pay back student loans. If you stay in school, you never have to pay them back.
Oh my goodness.
See, there's method to that.
Oh,
What can I say?
I love it. I love it.
So,
Crazy.
yeah,
Okay.
it is crazy.
Wow.
But that's the, anyway, part of the deal. So this is as good a time as any to mention that I am offering counseling services through Change of Mind here in Port St. Lucie, and that's on 314 Northwest Bethany Drive, right behind the Publix. And there's a set of offices back there, spas and dentists and counselors, and I'm in Change of Mind. And you can find me there at 772-284-6030, and I do accept Aetna and Cigna, and private pay, of course. And the exciting part is we're getting ready. We're going to start reworking the office to be able to accommodate it, but we're going to start doing PDD-BI testing and also dyslexia testing. for both adults and children. Very important things to know, because there are things that you can do once you recognize that's a concern. So you can't, some of those things you can't cure, but you can certainly cope with them and help develop interventions that make life easier. So yeah,
Nice.
lots of exciting things. And if you have insurance that I haven't mentioned, please still give the office a call, because there are other great counselors there. And there's Keith, who actually also went to Liberty. He's got his Liberty diploma hanging
Oh, wow.
in his office.
Okay.
And Eric Lever, who didn't go to Liberty, he went to Florida universities, but he's also a great counselor.
So he's a Gator?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll let you discuss sports with him.
a Gator shrink. Oh.
So lots
Yeah.
of different things there. And can be by coming to the office, or it can be telehealth, although you do have to be in Florida, because the Florida licenses extend to Florida.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. It's the,
So if I'm on vacation in Tennessee and I try to do telehealth, it
No.
doesn't work?
it does not work.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
But
And
I live in Florida.
you do, but if you're not in Florida physically, you don't have access to Florida emergency facilities that we can call out for you if you need them.
Oh,
So it's for your safety.
Okay, I got you. All right.
Okay.
No, that makes
sense.
does make sense.
Yeah. I mean, some states like California requires that the counselor be physically located in Florida. Florida does not require that. They require that the license be from Florida. But if I went to Tennessee, I could still do telehealth with you as long as you were in Florida, because it's about you having access to the services.
I got you. Okay. No, that actually.
Because I can call from Tennessee and get them going no differently than I would from
That does make sense.
from
Okay.
Florida. It does make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So, especially.
I didn't even think about the emergency stuff.
Yeah, because you never know when somebody's going to need something,
Yeah.
right? The expectation is that you won't, but the precautions need to expect that you might.
Yeah. Wow.
It's interesting. Some counselors are licensed in multiple states, and so they can offer telehealth in different states according to where their licenses are. And that's something I'll explore down the road. There is something called the Compact that's coming in that is trying to make it easier, because doctors take their license in the U.S. so they can practice anywhere in the U.S. That's not true for counselors. States still regulate counselors much more directly.
Yeah, well, I remember when we had the Florida Orthopedic Show, and one of the docs came in, just started, and he was from New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, doctors are much more portable.
Well, this doesn't make sense.
No, it
should
doesn't.
all be the same.
That should be, and it has to do with the attitude that mental health is not as real somehow as physical. I mean, but
on.
the reality is that everything psychological is simultaneously biological. There's
agree.
always a piece to it. And so one of my favorite things to do with people, this is a real easy one to do, if you're feeling tired or tense or anxious or just about anything.
I'm all the above.
All of the above, and I get that, right? Which is to take your shoulders, lift them up, and then roll them back and set them back down on your rib cage. Feel that?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what that does. Lift them up, roll it back, and set it back down on your rib cage.
Wow, there is a difference.
There is a huge difference for everybody who did it
That's wild.
out, who's hearing this. It is one of the most profound things you can do to lighten your mood. And the reason for that, there is a very simple biological reason. Everybody who's taken A&P and all of the nurses and doctors, you know the name of the little muscle that's in the back behind your neck. And when you lift up the shoulders and put it back down, you release all the tension that those muscles are holding. They're tiny, but they hold so much of our tension. Because if you think about it, as you get nervous or anxious or fearful, you bring your shoulders forward, you hunch a little bit.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, you're releasing all of that tension that you've put in those little muscles that work hard to let you hunch.
That's crazy.
We don't think of that as being muscles that help us hunch, but you are really using those muscles. So when you improve your posture, roll your shoulders back, you release that, and it feels better.
I like it. Yeah.
Right? It
That's
changes.
something you can do anywhere.
Anybody can do it anywhere. It's one of the things when I'm working with a client that I will sometimes have them do in a session. Just do it. And particularly if you're telling a story that's hard to tell, if you're describing something that you're fearful of, because the way we get to the root of those emotions is what I call walking through the valley. You have to go into the shadows and feel and work them through. That's the way that you conquer a lot of these things. And so a client may well feel anxious or feel all of the emotion, and that releases some of that from the body. It's helpful and powerful.
Nice. Well, you know, that's interesting. It's funny, Joanne, when she does her nutrition show here, always she and Cliff do the breathing exercises. Well, Carol has started doing that at home now before she comes into work. And she said, it's all the difference in the world.
It is.
And it doesn't take long. It's, 2-3 minutes, but it is different. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's just, so here's the bottom line. Whatever is going on that makes you feel a certain way, if you change anything in the system, the feelings will change. Because the way that you feel is dependent on everything being a certain way.
That makes sense.
And so I can't tell you stop feeling what you're feeling, because that's, first of all, impossible, and secondly, inappropriate. But I can ask you to change your posture. I can ask you to do breathing. I can do any number of other interventions, some of which are called grounding, but it's from the mindfulness practice. I can also ask you to visit the part of yourself that's feeling pain, because we fractionate ourselves. And by that, what I mean is, if you experience trauma, a segment of you deals and carries that burden of the trauma until it's allowed to tell the story. We need to process it. It may not be verbal telling. It may be screaming, crying, any number of different ways of expressing emotion. But that part of you, it's as if you have, and I'm not talking about multiple personalities, although we are made up of different parts. And you can think that, you can understand that when I say you've got a part of you that's courageous, a part of you that's fearful, right?
We all do.
We all do. We all have these little voices that, voices, thoughts, however you manifest that in yourself. And they compete to help keep us safe. They're there to try to keep us safe, and they get overburdened. And when they get overburdened, they become hypervigilant and a number of other things in the effort to protect us, the main us, the whole of us, the essence of us, from these traumas. And so they do it in a variety of ways. There was a very powerful video. We do a unit on trafficking, abuse and trafficking.
Oh boy.
Because they're related. They really are. People may not realize that traffickers are abusers who are just using human beings.
Yeah.
And they use the same.
I never thought of that, but
they use the same techniques to control their slaves. And that's what people who are trafficked are. They're slaves. And whether you're directly abusing them yourself or having others abuse them for your profit matters not. It's still the same mechanism. And one of the videos that we watched in class yesterday, a brief one, but it was from a woman who had been abused, molested by someone. And she described that one of the things that victims do is they actually initiate the contact to get it over with. Because it's the most painful part of the relationship.
Wow.
Yeah. And and to see her
That's
face talking
backwards.
about that. Of course it is, but the whole when you're being abused, the whole world is upside down.
I can't even
You're
comprehend
not
stuff
you're
like
not able to engage rationally with it. And part of that is because there's so many things going on. The abuser uses your vulnerabilities to manipulate you and control you. And it's scary. It really is. And for those who want to see that video, it's the title is something along the lines, "To understand abuse, you must first understand grooming." Right? Because that's how the abuser or the trafficker ensnares their victims.
grooming.
Grooming. It's called grooming. In other words, they get you used to being abused. They teach you Stockholm Syndrome is part of it, Al. One of my Facebook folks is mentioning it. It's called the trauma bond, and that's really huge. So when you're absolutely dependent on somebody for everything, and you're also your abusers, you end up bonded to them because you depend on them. And they do supply just enough of your minimum needs to hold you captive. When you talk to people who stay in abusive relationships, those are some of the things you hear. They're afraid of where are they going to get food, where are they going to find shelter, where are they this, where are they going to that. And that's part of how the perpetrators are able to hold on to them without tying them down or forcing them or holding a gun to them. The manipulation and control is much more subtle. You can see it in public, but it's not necessarily obvious if you don't know what you're looking for. But there is a number to call if you think that somebody's being trafficked, and I'll give that. It's a hotline. It's 888-3737-888.
I was watching. It was one of those Chicago shows, and there was a woman, young woman, with a guy, and the police officer asked if she had her ID, and he immediately said no, she doesn't have it with
Yeah.
her. But I thought that was weird. And
Yeah, that's one of the signs if you don't carry your own ID.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
one way to hold you. You can't prove who you are.
Well, yeah. God. Oh, that's a whole different world.
It's a whole but it's right here. I mean, it's happening on the Treasure Coast. And they start grooming. They groom kids through social media. They ensnare kids through social media. It's one of the reasons for being afraid of what's going on. There's a big movement called the Faith Movement, and it says don't take the bait. It started in Stewart out of Martin County. And you can find, if you Google Martin County don't take the bait, you'll see some of the pieces about it. There was just a big arrest not long ago in Orlando, a great big sting of trafficked people. And people are not just trafficked for sex. Of course, that's a good chunk of it. But they're also trafficked for labor.
Yeah.
The labor market, unfortunately, uses a lot of trafficked people.
Well, and they were talking about like the nail salons.
Yes. Nail salons are a big one. And if you see a person standing in the back or popping through the door and watching, the odds are that the people working are being trafficked.
Oh boy.
So nail salons are one. Restaurants can be as well. It's one of the places, and of course, agriculture.
Yeah.
This is a huge amount of them because they're out of the line of sight of most people. And it's a tragic thing that we do that to fellow human beings. But there are people who do. There are people who benefit from it. Comparatively, slaves cost much less today than they did when America was founded. And Alda said maids. That's another place where if something is too cheap, there's a clue that somebody's probably not getting paid. And it's that real. I mean, people need to make at least minimum wage. And if they're not, something's going on. Something's going on. Now, as I say that, I'm also, aware that Salvation Army hires people at portions of salary that are otherwise special needs, but that's a special situation.
Yeah, yeah, no.
We're not
and-
talking as much about that. But that's not to say that that couldn't, and anything where it becomes okay to use people is a potential place for people to be trafficked. So cantinas, nail salons, as you mentioned, massage parlors might be as well. The, people are even trafficked. Here's a really, really seamy part of Florida for their insurance, their health insurance for treatment, especially in sobriety centers. They actually pay people to relapse to restart their insurance benefits. And that population so needs help. Anyway, they don't need people doing that on them. But there's a whole big,
Oh, yeah.
the Florida Shuffle, it's called.
Well, yeah. And it happens, of course, I saw it in sports. A dear friend of mine was a sports agent. And he then went to work for the U.S. Attorney's Office. And there was a sports agent in Chicago who was signing kids, getting them hooked on drugs intentionally.
Yeah.
And then he had a deal with these treatment centers, and this guy was making millions off this.
Yeah.
And he would primarily, the black athletes who didn't understand contracts,
Yeah.
and he took advantage of them and ruined their lives.
Yeah.
Well, they finally got it. And my friend was the U.S. attorney who prosecuted him, and they put him away for a long time, and rightfully so.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody who abuses people like that deserves whatever the system can throw at them. And it's a tragic thing, but
Yeah, it's so difficult, when you see like some of the television shows, you just think, how in the world can this happen today?
there is an estimated 1.5 million slaves in the U.S. right now. So it's tragic. It's tragic. We have about the same number of slaves as Russia has.
Well, and what happens to the illegal folks who, in theory, can't get a job without a work permit?
Yeah, they're definitely very, very easy targets
Yeah, I would think
for
so.
this system. Absolutely. And that's one of that's the dark side, if you will, of the war on immigration, right? These are people who may think they're coming into the U.S. legally, only to get here and find out that they aren't. And they're swindled the whole way through.
Yeah, because the coyotes will say anything to
Right.
get their business.
Right. And it takes somebody here on the U.S. side willing to use those people to enslave them. So it's big money, and it's very much the seamy side. And when somebody is really heavy on don't let the illegal immigrants in, they are helping to support that system, if not directly benefiting from it.
Wow.
So that's one of the reasons for not allowing amnesty. You're not allowing these slaves to come out into the light. You're keeping them in the back and in the dark. And, for some of them, the little bit that they get and can send home is still worth it. They're doing that for the ones they love back home. And it's very tragic. It's very, very tragic. There is so much to work on. So this is my message to the grads for today. Those who graduated just recently or who are graduating, who are running around getting their graduation pictures all over the place. Do something about the seamy side. Help us be a better planet, because here's Here's the kicker, if you will. If we could unenslave these victims, then they could contribute to society in meaningful ways, and society as a whole would be better off. If we could allow the cream of every crop to rise and do what they can for society, then we would be so much better off. But we don't do that. We hold people down because people are using others, right? Immanuel Kant, and it's interesting, and I've talked about Germany and their prison systems before, but their constitution says that human dignity is inviolable and must be protected. And that's directly out of Kant, and that's because of what Germany did in World War II. They wanted to ingrain it that that's not acceptable to use people toward an end. Because that's really there were two main aims initially to the labor, they were called labor camps. It was forced labor, and at the same time taking people's possessions, right? Targeting the relatively new rich in Germany to take their stuff, which was still fairly mobile, paintings and property, and abscond with it, if you will, and put the people in forced labor, get slave labor out of them.
They had some stories on Nightly this week, and some of the grads, and some who were protesting the Palestinian thing and stuff. And a couple of them were interviewed, and I was shocked where this one girl totally denied the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And it's like, and she said, "Oh, I don't remember anything back from 1990. Well, it's like, haven't you read history books?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all a fairy tale, right? That's
Crazy.
yeah. And that's one of the reasons why kids can be recruited for stuff like that, because they don't yet have the prefrontal cortex fully developed. They haven't figured out, as much of society hasn't figured out, that history matters. We need to not repeat history, at least not the bad parts. And there's plenty of that. I mean, we deal with it. If you talk to somebody who isn't raised in the U.S. about Columbus, you discover that he was really a very nasty, rotten, evil kind of person who enslaved and who beat and tortured and killed indigenous peoples. Right? Hispaniola had a huge, thriving civilization, and after Columbus, they were destroyed completely, the Tainos. And yet America celebrates him, and that has to do, as you said, you're Italian, right? So Columbus is the Italian hero, and that was based on a fictional story about him that was written
Naturally.
and that got promoted and into this big thing, and kids who are raised on that story think of that as just wonderful and a great piece of their identity. And that's part of the reason why we see some of the conflict that we see with people accepting what history and evidence supports. And that is because it chisels away at people's sense of identity. And we build our sense of identity to give us significance and importance, as well as love and connection and other basic human needs. But it really does attack that part of us that helps us feel significant and special if we chisel away at, quote unquote, the heroes. And I ran into that decades ago. I was teaching a group of 10, I was not yet a rabbi, I was just a teacher, and I was teaching 10 women in Pennsylvania, in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, helping them get ready for adult B'nai Mitzvah. They were all going to become Bat Mitzvah on this special day where we were going to hold a special service for them. And it was a 2-year educational program. They had to commit to coming twice a week
Mm-hmm.
and doing homework and doing all kinds of stuff. And we were doing a unit on David, King David, and I've always had a knack of teaching both the good and the bad about a person, make them real, and discuss what his role was in what he did. And the rabbi of that congregation happened to stop by and hear part of the lesson. And he pulled me aside and he said, "You can't take away the people's heroes. Like, they can learn that they're human beings and that they had a good and a bad side. And that we were glad for the good things they did, and we wish they didn't do the bad things. They're not saints." And so he and I got into a rather heated discussion.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I just was careful what I said when he was in the classroom after that. I did not invite any further discussions on that line. But I've always done that. I think that it's important for people to recognize that it's not all good and it's not all bad either. Right? People who are bad sometimes do good things. But Columbus is a really strange case because he was quite the loon. The world knew that the earth was round. Columbus thought it was actually smaller than most people did. And that's why he was able to talk. The spice trade was so heated that if he was right, they gave him just 3 little meager ships to try to prove that he could reach India, because he thought he didn't know about America. And he
Sure.
didn't know about North and South and Central America, and he thought he could just go around the other side and get to India. And people were afraid that if there wasn't an America there, how would they restock? And of course, if you know there's America there, it's kind of hard to find a good shipping route.
Omaha.
You kind of need to build that land bridge first.
Yeah, I think so.
And, it's shipping that caused the Panama and Suez canals to be built. 'Cause
Sure.
people didn't want to
Sure.
go around the north or south of the continents, the north being a little more challenging.
Cape Horn down there was 40-foot seas.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
And cold. You didn't survive long if you fell into the water.
Oh, yeah.
So, right, so there's all kinds of things going on. So, yeah.
I'm going to take my bathing suit to Antarctica.
And play with the penguins, right?
Play with the penguins.
Yeah, penguins are fascinating. And
I loved them at San Diego Zoo.
they're funny.
So amazing.
Yeah. Bill and I actually saw a penguin of all crazy places, in Oahu. There was a penguin in the water park that they've got. And I can still remember the trainer's comment is, on a scale of 1 to 10, a penguin's intelligence is -3.
Yeah.
And she tried to get the penguin to do some things, and she said, "You have to allow. He's going to do it sometimes, and he's not going to do it sometimes." And sure enough, she would, set it up, and the penguin would either do what he wanted or what she asked.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, didn't often happen, but sometimes it did. So it was clear that he had an idea what he was supposed to do, but wasn't really motivated to follow through. So yeah, penguins. Which brings up another piece, right? So what's the difference between motivation and intelligence? And that's a hard one. Because if you're motivated to do your homework, you'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll learn. And if you're not, then you may be judged as not being intelligent. So there's a connection between motivation to do a task and the estimate of intelligence based on the act.
Well, you have to be motivated to become intelligent.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes so if you've got, the example I'm thinking of is there were 7 or 8 puppies in a pen, and they opened the door, and one of the puppies hangs back. And that's both fear, motivation, and possibly intelligence playing into that. But the commentator was really quick to say, and you can see who's not smart by who stays in the pen. And that's not the whole story.
Well, if it was like the smallest puppy in the group,
It may have gotten picked on.
Yeah.
All kinds of things may
I
be
get
going
that.
on. And so that gets back to part of what I kind of started with here today, which is that you need more of the story. What presents is only a part of the story. And people need to work through these parts of them that are holding these burdens, because these burdened parts from our traumas can stop us from moving forward, can stop us from engaging in activities and with others, and we might be judged as less intelligent than we really are because of all of these traumas. Right? So Al said emotion blocks motivation, and that's true, it can. And so there are so many ways to overjudge people who are fighting these traumas. And right, she says maladaptive actions originate from blocks. Right? We talk about having blocks. And that's actually just one of these parts that's overburdened with something that happened. And until they can tell their story to us, and as long as we say, I don't want to hear about it right now, and shove it off in the back corner, we're not going to heal from that trauma.
Yeah, like in the newsroom, we used to get writer's block.
Yeah. Now here's a little tip that I'll offer people for writer's block.
Oh, here we
So
go.
this is one that I use. I write the sentence that says, I'm not sure what to say, so I'm putting this down as my first sentence on this paper or on this article or whatever it is that you're writing. And then that opens the dam on the writer's block, because now you've got a sentence down there. And it tricks the mind.
Well, yeah, the first sentence is always the most difficult.
Yeah. And then it just flows, and then you go back and erase that first sentence, and you're done.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I do some variety of that, or I might say,
That is so
if I
cool,
knew
though.
how to start this paper, it would be in this sentence, but it's going to have to be in my next one. And that just starts your brain. It jumps over. Yes, should we talk to that part of you that has the writer's block and work through it? Absolutely. So if you've got writer's block, that's a good clue that you might need to work with a counselor or a therapist or somebody to deal with the trauma that's blocking it.
Yeah, you hear a lot of authors that talk about that sometimes it could be weeks before they can actually start their book.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not that they don't have the whole idea in their head. They do.
Yeah.
Or they wouldn't even be thinking about writing the book. And there's some fear in there that's connected with starting it. And it may or may not have anything to do with starting it. It may just manifest that way. Wow. We are interesting. Our psyches do what they can in their limited views to protect us. And what do I mean by that is that the psyche usually has tunnel vision. It only sees either what hurt you or what you're afraid of or whatever this intense emotion is, and they want to protect you from that. And so they block you. They stop you from doing something. And it's just, it's worth noting, one of my clients, because I also see clients through Legacy, but one of my clients was telling me that one of the things that they want to do is to make sure they keep their appointment with me, and that felt really cool and humbling.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that that's because part of the work that I do is to work through these things, and you could be 5, you could be 105, and you may still have these blocks that interfere with daily functioning. And it doesn't have to profoundly, it can be writer's block, so it just slows you down. It could be, I don't feel like doing that today.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that block really well. All right. I'm overloaded, I know that, and I look at all the tasks and I go, I'm not going to do any of them. That's not helpful. You need to pick one and do it and get it out there.
Got my degree in procrastination.
Yeah, I understand that one. And as I say this, I'm realizing one of the tasks I didn't do yesterday. So, yeah.
You too?
Oh, me 3. All of me. So yeah,
Oh.
and I don't say these things thinking that I'm somehow better. I'm in the stew with the rest of us, and it's only because of that that I can help others. If I really didn't have these things, I wouldn't recognize them in others. Right? It is our wounds in life that help us work through what others need.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, Rabbi Zalman Schechter Shalomi, I can't get his name out yet. One of my mentors, the leader of the movement that where my ordination is, used to say to us, when you go to help somebody, stop for a moment and find the place in you that hurts the closest to what you're seeing. And from that place, work with the person.
Wow.
So, truly recognize that you are wounded as well. And it's only when we learn to deal with our wounds in a healthy way that we can help others. And it motivates us to learn more and to become better. So there we come back on our motivation. But we become afraid of ourselves as much as we become afraid of others.
Oh, I believe that.
So this is as good a time as any to say, and if you'd like some therapy, you can talk with me or one of the other therapists at Change of Mind on 314 Northwest Bethany Drive in Port St. Lucie, right behind the Publix in that set of offices back there. And the number there is 772-284-6030 or www.mychangeofmind.com.
And they are available. Oh, what are the office hours?
The office is there, I think, from 9 to 5 or 5:30, something like that. There's Rose and Mary Ellen who run the office, and they'll be who you talk to set up.
But you can see counselors in the evening
in
time?
the evenings and on weekends. There's a couple of
Okay.
therapists that work on weekends, and yeah, I'll even see people on Sundays if they want.
There you go.
So, all different kinds of times.
Which is
and-
all her spare time from teaching at two colleges.
Yeah, sometimes Sundays are the easiest, and
Oh.
the freest.
So it's summer A now?
It's summer A for one more week, and then it goes to summer B at Kaiser, and in 3 weeks at IRSC it goes to summer B.
By the way, your IRSC softball team is in the Final Four. So, yeah, as is Northwest Florida, naturally.
Yeah.
They're always there. But anyway, yeah. So they play this afternoon.
Lots of things going on. So yay IRSC teams, yay Skyhawks.
Yeah.
Lots of folks to cheer for. And I don't think they're not in the same leagues. They don't
No.
play against each other. So I can cheer endlessly for both colleges and
Kaiser
the
is
college and the university.
NAIA University. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep.
And I've got a little Skylar on my desk. So somewhere along the line, I picked up a little I've got a stuffed Skylar and a little I don't know, resin or something. They sit on my desk at Kaiser. So,
Yeah,
definitely enjoy it.
And I don't understand. Maybe President Moore can let us know why in the world they have I think it's an eagle. I have no idea what it is.
It's a bird.
IRC has a mascot
Yeah.
of some sort.
Another bird.
It's a bird.
It's a bird. It's a bird.
It's a bird.
And all kinds of things exciting that are happening on both campuses, actually. Lots of activity going on in Port St. Lucie. It's notable that we have such good schools here. Both are great schools and both offer a lot to students. And I love teaching at both. That's the bottom line. I love my students. And
Well, what amazes me is that Kaiser has managed to purchase land around the main campus down on Military Trail.
Oh.
And they've got 100-acre residential area now for students,
Oh, okay.
which is marvelous. I mean, the campus down there is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. I wish that we had housing here in Port St. Lucie. Unfortunately, what we've got is a lot of expensive housing right around the university campus. So if I could roll back time and if I could influence the powers that be, it would be to have some student housing. Although I understand that the satellite campuses are viewed more as
Commuter schools.
commuter
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
But there are still students who need low-cost housing because that's what they need. So that is an ongoing issue, and I hope that when IRSC does its build in Port St. Lucie, that they will add some low-cost housing, not just for students, but for starting families and people who need the fresh start.
Well, Dr. Moore, if you're listening, there's a suggestion for
There
the
you go.
suggestion box.
Yep, and
Yeah.
if I could be of any help in that effort, I certainly would do that as well.
There you go.
So that's as good a time as anything to also mention that our congregation has services on Friday evening at 7:30, and that's at 275 Northwest Prima Vista Boulevard at the corner of Irving. Go north on Irving, depends which way you come on Prima Vista, but we are in the community center, the first building on the campus of St. Andrew's Lutheran Church. So please do join us. Anyone's welcome, 7:30 p.m. on a Friday evening. We hold our services in there, and all are welcome.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you can also check us out at www.eitzchayim.org, eitzchayim.org. Eitz Chayim means tree of life, so come see what we're about.
And don't forget, countdown is on. High holy days are coming, and it seems like quicker than
It is.
than most.
Yep, we're doing something right now called Counting the Omer, which is counting the days between Passover and Shavuot.
There you go.
And then shortly thereafter, you're right, we start right into the getting ready for High Holy Day season.
Wow.
So the year goes faster and faster.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the things about life. Enjoy it, kids. It's longest when you're young.
Yeah. Yes.
It's increasingly small.
Oh boy. All right. Well, you have a great week, okay?
You as well, and thank you once again. And this is Rabbi Shafir Lobb for Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast.
And for counseling, where can
For
they reach you?
counseling at Change of Mind at 772-284-6030. And all of that's available at Cigna and Aetna. And if you need a different insurance, still call that number because one of the other therapists can work with you.
All right. Hey, have a good week.
You as well. Everyone have a great week. Enjoy. It's Labor Day. Or not Labor Day, Memorial Day.
Yep.
I always swap those two.
Yep.
And be safe on the holiday. Travel safely, folks, whoever is traveling.
This is WPSL, Port St.